So I just finished recording with Ola Melzig, and what a blast. I mean, I love that guy, super interesting guy. You're in for a great podcast today. I know it's a little long. It's over 2 hours. I apologize. We could have gone over 3 hours, to be perfectly honest, but at the end, he made me really hungry talking about barbecue, so I have to go have lunch now. But we talked a lot about Eurovision Song Contest, which he just finished again. But we also talked about hockey. We talked about some other stuff. We talked about a new thing that he's about to launch, which is going to be even bigger than anything he's ever done, which I can't wait to share that info, but that'll be a few weeks from now. But anyways, I really hope you enjoy this half as much as I enjoy doing it. Again, Ola is a great guy. This is episode number 251 on Geezers of Gear, and please have fun. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast, number 251. This episode is brought to you by Row Visual. You don't have to sacrifice quality when it comes to investing in LED displays suitable for outdoor use. The Vanish ST series is a line of LED panels from industry leader Row Visual, engineered to excel in a wide range of applications. The outstanding outdoor live event solution is a continuation of the audience-favored Vanish series, which began with the transparent V8T design. The models are compatible with one another, meaning you can maximize the usability of existing rental stock. The VST series is available in a solid panel with pixel pitches of 4 and 6 millimeter. The lightweight design packs a punch with a maximum brightness of 5,000 nits and a 10-degree curving radius via its built-in curving blocks. The Vanish ST panels come in full, half, and quarter panel sizes, catering to a myriad of design preferences. The outdoor-rated VST panels have integrated wind bracing frames, making them wind load resistant up to 45 miles per second. This ensures audience safety while keeping structural stability in mind. So whether you're preparing for a musical tour or a large-scale outdoor event, your Vanish ST LED panel is up to the challenge. For more information on Vanish VST and other LED solutions, visit rowvisual.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. AVL is a leading distributor of professional audio, video, and lighting equipment in North America, initially established in 1996 by founder and CEO Stephen Costers, after seeing an opportunity to inject a sense of genuine passion into the distribution process. The company has grown to become the proud home of many key brands in the industry. As the exclusive U.S. distributors for Midas Pro consoles, Lab Group and amplifiers, Lake processors, Tannoy installation speakers, Clark Technique signal processing, Turbo Sound loudspeakers, and Aston microphones, AVL are committed to developing long-term business relationships with their partners at every level by providing outstanding pre- and post-sale service and support. Please visit avlmediagroup.com today. Yeah, episode 251. I'm excited today. I'm happy for today's guest. Love the guy. Think he's a pretty awesome dude, and we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. And I'm also pretty happy this week, even though I'm still sick. I've been sick for it started on my birthday, June 8th, and today is, I don't even know what the date is today, the 20-something, 26th, 7th, probably 27th. Anyways, I'm still sick, and I don't usually get sick, so this is a weird one, and it just keeps lingering, as you can tell from my super sexy voice. it's just hanging around. And so if anybody has any pointers, reach out. Tell me your wives' tale methods of getting rid of this final bit of whatever it is I have. I'm also pretty excited this week because the Panthers won the Stanley Cup. Florida Panthers has been my adopted team since they came to South Florida in 1993. I moved from Calgary to South Florida via Chicago, but in 1991, and really was jonesing for a hockey team because following the Flames when you're on Eastern time in Florida is a little tough and you don't get very many games. And that was frustrating. So when the Panthers came, I just went, okay, let's grab these guys. And my boss at the time, Gerard Cohen, who owned Trackman, bought season tickets the very first year. And of course, being from France and knowing nothing about hockey, they kind of invited me to go along to all the games because they needed somebody to explain what the hell was going on. And so I had to tell them what, cross-checking was and tripping and hooking and all of those different things and offsides. And every time a whistle went, they'd go, "What is happening?" And I'd explain it to them. But ever since that time, I really got into the Panthers. And in, was it 96, I think, they had their first run where they went all the way to the Cup and didn't get it. They got blown out in 4 games by the Avs. But this was their third run to the Cup. So the first one, I think, was in 96, perhaps. The second one was last year. And again, they got beat pretty bad in 5 games by Las Vegas. And now this year, they came back to the Cup and they actually won it. They beat Edmonton. It got way more excited than it needed to be. They won the first 3 and should have probably swept it, and then just kind of went asleep for 3 games and let the series become tied up and go to 7 games. And I will tell you, I don't care if you're a hockey fan or not. I say it to my girlfriend all the time, who's British and had never seen a hockey game prior to Marcel. I think it's the most exciting sport on television, first of all, but I think it's also the most exciting live sport. And of course, I'm biased because I'm Canadian. But and Game 7, especially in a final, but playoff Game 7 in the NHL, there is nothing like it. There's no sport that you're going to watch that's like a Game 7 final. And this one didn't disappoint. It was a friggin' fabulous game. I know a lot of Oilers fans think otherwise, especially Red Rod Gibson. Red and I made a bet. And if you go to Rod's Facebook page, actually, you might not get there in time. He might have already changed it back, but he had to change his profile picture to a Panthers logo. He's a diehard Oilers fan, and so we made a bet. He had to change his profile picture for a week. And again, by the time you hear this, he will have quickly changed it back to something else, probably not even the Oilers, because he's miserable about them right now. But anyways, pretty exciting. It was a fun run. I got to go to a couple playoff games. I'm in Canada right now. Otherwise, I would have been at Game 7 with my buddy Randy. And just an exciting time. Anytime your team wins a championship. And again, I'm biased, but I think the Stanley Cup championship is probably the hardest trophy in sports to win. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers and all of their fans. And what else? Of course, AI, my favorite topic. So one of the interesting ones, I've talked to you before about Suno and Udio, which are 2 of the big music creation apps, AI apps. And, there's been a lot of controversy around them because they're very good. They actually create really cool music that it's hard to tell was done by AI. The voices are good. The instruments are good. The guitar solos are good. It's good. I mean, I've created some songs on there that are just like, wow. Like I could hear these on the radio. And but they've been sued for copyright infringement by some of the large record labels. And record companies, of course, are saying that AI are copying artist works. And the AI companies, of course, are saying, no, we're not. These are completely original creations. Our AIs are programmed to create new compositions, new and original compositions. And any resemblance to any other song or any other artist out there is completely coincidental. I tend to believe that because that would be way too easy. That would be way too low of a bar for legal for the legal process to shut down. Everybody's watching for it. So the last thing you want to do is play right into their hands and copy a song or copy an artist or copy a voice. Like people were saying that, who was it? I can't remember which actress it was, but, what's her name? Jeez, I'm looking at her right now from, anyways, that AI copied her voice after she turned them down to do an ad. And I don't know how that's ended up in court. But anyways, who knows where this one will go. I think it's just record companies trying to save what little they have left. And, same thing when they battled Napster and everything else. It's coming. You can try and slow it down. You can take them into court. You can do all of these things. But at the end of the day, if they're not copying, they're not copying. And it's going to be pretty hard to prove they're copying when all of the software says otherwise. So there is a company called Materials Nexus, which is a UK-based company, and they have developed an innovative magnet called Magnex. And they've developed that using AI, removing all rare earth elements or materials from that magnet, which is quite rare. It's quite, because they're made with rare earth materials, magnets. So AI was able to analyze over 100 million compositions, which, of course, accelerated research and development process and could have traditionally taken decades, and they got it done in a couple of months. And so that's pretty incredible. This is the stuff that is exciting about AI. Think of, once they dial in on cancer research, think of how quickly a cure for cancer is going to happen, because what's taken researchers 20 years to test and, develop and create and test again and throw away and test again. And, they can do in minutes or days or weeks. And so I think we're going to see some significant breakthroughs, not just in technology, but also in health and health sciences and biology and all of those things. This is a big one. A top level OpenAI executive, I think a VP maybe the chief technology officer at OpenAI, I think. But a top executive said in a recent interview that some creative jobs maybe will go away, but maybe they shouldn't have been there in the first place. So that wasn't good. Kind of saying the quiet part out loud when you say that. And so that's obviously created quite a stir, and it plays into the hands of those in our industry and others who are really freaked out about this technology coming on board. And last but not least, you are going to... So my recording platform where I'm recording this podcast on allows for something that they call AI voice, which means that I can basically type in whatever I want. I can insert a paragraph. I can insert, a book chapter, whatever I want, and it will read that in my voice with some, attitude and some passion and some emotion, and it sounds pretty damn real. And so it's crazy, but I wanted to share this with you because I actually want you to hear how far AI has come. And so I've got a cold right now. You can hear my voice is raspier and crappier than normal. And it has actually copied my voice with the cold. And so I didn't have to read into it or do anything. It just went back through my most recent podcasts, duplicated my voice, and then read whatever I typed in. So what I did was I just took today's bio for today's guest, who is Ola Melzig. And I just took the bio and I copied and pasted it into this AI voice app within my recording platform. And what you're about to hear was created by AI, not by me. And so again, AI just read the words that I gave it, and you're going to hear it's kind of freaky. It's freaky how good it is. And coming very, very soon, you'll be able to do it with your face too. So basically I can give it words and it's going to use my mouth, my face, and read those words to you, and my voice. Insane. I mean, I'll just be able to sleep all day and, mail in my podcast. Not going to happen. So one thing I did want to say about this is that this is not a sign of things to come. So if you're a sponsor of our podcast, we're not going to suddenly start doing sponsor readings via AI. It's not to become lazy. It's none of those things. I'm only doing this right now because I wanted you to see how far it's come. And so before I go on to this Ola bio, I would like to ask once again for you to like and subscribe our podcast. It really does help. Like and subscribe and comment on YouTube, like on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube as well. It really does help us grow the audience. And speaking of growing the audience, if you would like to be on the podcast, please send an email to producer@geezersofgear.com. That will go to Sarah. Sarah will put you in the loop and get you scheduled. And obviously it's a very busy summer, so we've got a couple of openings still for July that we're trying to fill. And so if you're ready to record in July, please just reach out to producer@geezersofgear.com and Sarah will get you going. So again, what you're about to hear is a bio read by AI for today's podcast, which is Ola Melzig. So enjoy. Ola Melzig began as a stagehand working on local shows in Stockholm 1989. Over the last 20 years, he has gone on to produce high-profile shows, beginning with the massive Eurovision Song Contest, but also the Commonwealth Games, the Nobel Prize Awards, and recently serving as executive producer of the American Song Contest as well. In February 2017, Ola was awarded Production Manager of the Year at the annual TPI Awards in London. Ola is married to Joan Lyman since 2006. They have 6 grown-up children, and the family split their time between Stockholm, Sweden, and Austin, Texas. So please join me in welcoming Ola Melzig back to Geezers of Gear, episode number 251. Ola.
Cuckoo.
You know, I always want to say "Como está" after that, but I'm sure it's not the first time you've ever heard it.
Bien. See, I speak Spanish. Bien.
Yeah.
I've been to Mexico.
Well, I live in South Florida, so you almost speak Spanish even if you don't speak Spanish, because it just punches you in the face a few times a day or a few hundred times a day.
Texas.
Yeah.
Same in Texas. Yeah.
So speaking of getting punched in the face, we just had a technology little go round here, me and Ola, trying to get Chrome to agree to allow him to record this podcast. And so here we are recording on your cell phone after all of that.
So let's not dwell into technology, because clearly we don't know anything about that. We should talk about barbecue or something that
we'll get there.
Know.
We'll get there. I want to get to barbecue, but certainly we're going to talk about technology a whole bunch. So you were actually just telling me a story about your wife doing a project for a horror movie. Tell me about that on the air now, because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, she was working doing promotion for a horror movie about clowns and the Clown Motel somewhere in Nevada. Yeah. And before the big premiere, obviously the movie needed to be subtitled, and she was just like, oh, how am I going to do this? And then she found an AI robot that did it for her. Don't tell the client, because maybe we charge a couple more hours than it actually took to do it.
No kidding, yeah.
But it was scary. It's a little bit frightening, because it can do so much and it has happened so fast.
Well, that's the crazy part. Like, if you think back 1 year, I don't think 1 year ago we had yet really heard about ChatGPT in the public. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't out in the wild or out of the wild yet. It wasn't mainstream yet.
Yeah.
And in 1 year, what has happened? It's just gone completely nuts. Yeah. And I just shared your bio. I just shared your bio with you, and everyone listening just heard your bio read by AI. And it's funny because, like I said, for the past few weeks, I've had this cold that I can't shake, and it's using my voice with the cold, not my normal voice. So I have no idea how it's doing this stuff, but it's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's Terminator is happening right now.
Well, You know, you are a very interesting use case when it comes to AI because not only like your own work, like and I want to talk about this a little bit because I read that you start every project on a spreadsheet,
Yeah,
and it's really interesting because I can only imagine how many lines are on that sheet, considering the amount of gear you're using on,
yeah,
especially Eurovision.
yeah,
But um, AI can create so many shortcuts and so many just helpful things when it comes to tedious tasks like that.
yeah.
Uh, and that's some of the stuff that's exciting to me. The stuff that's not exciting is where where guys who are running programming MA consoles will become useless. Like we don't
Right,
need them
right,
anymore.
right. Yeah,
I don't know that that's coming anytime soon, because I think the industry is going to really block that in a sense.
yeah.
But,
Let's do
but
that. Let's block that because
yeah,
in the end of the day, unless you're performing something for robots, you need a human touch to it. And there are things that so far only humans can do, and I'd like to cling on to that as long as possible.
yeah, but when you think of the tedious things, like where every guy programming a show or girl programming a show on an MA console or whatever has to sort of create that foundational stuff and put in all the same stuff that they always have to put in, but for this
Sure.
particular configuration.
Yep.
And they may be sitting there for a day, 2 days, 3 days, just putting in lines of code, basically. That
Yep.
can be replaced.
Yep.
That's the stuff that takes your programming time down from 2 weeks to maybe 1 week or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
And if you think of the use of effects engines as a great example, so this is just taking that maybe a step further, where
True that. True that. Yeah.
the basic stuff, the basic stuff that you don't, that doesn't have like passion and human just
Mm.
feel and stuff, like where you can look at it and go, I love what you did there,
Yeah.
like the lines of code stuff, I think are going to be a welcome change.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, and I think that's going to happen. And it's right around the corner. So let's see.
Well,
Let's see where
it's
this
right
takes us.
there.
Oh,
Like
it's
it's right
actually
there.
right there. It's right
Yeah,
there.
I
Yeah.
think that I think we're the ones who are slowing it down in our industry. And again, it's some of it is conspiracy theory, some of it is panic, some of it is very well founded and good to slow it down.
Mm.
Uh, and one example I keep using is at LDI this past year, there was one company that basically had a sign up that said you don't need a programmer anymore, or you don't need a lighting operator anymore, or something like that. And
Mm.
people were going in the booth and just berating this guy,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?" And it was
Yeah.
some kind of a club lighting controller or whatever that
Right.
that could program itself based on some input that you were giving it, like this is the mood, this is the theme, this is the type of music, the genre, whatever,
Yeah.
and it just goes and programs itself.
Yeah.
And so the guy probably presented it wrong, if nothing
Yeah. And
else.
maybe he was at the wrong trade show.
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
When you're
Maybe.
marketing to a bunch of lighting operators and programmers and designers, the
Yeah.
last thing you want
Like
to do
you're
is say
not needed.
you're unnecessary, mister.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally true. But again, I'm somewhere between excited and scared to death about all of it,
Yeah,
and
me too, and that's usually not me because I'm usually the first one to embrace new technologies. But
yeah,
what scares me is that, as you said, it was like 12 months ago we had barely heard about it, and now it's everyone is talking about it, and everyone is doing it, and
yeah.
it's implemented everywhere, and it's just like it's at a really fast pace, and it's hard. It's so hard to keep track of.
And it's going to
Um,
get faster because
yeah,
there's sort of an exponential growth component that's going to start coming into play. Already has, but we're going to really start seeing the impact of some of these things. And there's already stuff like where they're doing simulations where actual fighter jet pilots are doing dogfights against AI fighter jet pilots, and the AI pilots are winning every one.
Yeah.
Like they're winning every single one. So
Yeah.
now you start looking at the ethical boundaries and stuff where what if Russia or China or Iran starts creating AI fighter jets and, you know, kind of like really smart kamikaze jets, you know, that are just
Yeah.
going in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just, you know, obliterating everything, and they don't care about human life because there isn't any, you
Yeah.
know, not in their planes anyways.
No,
They're just,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So there's
Yeah.
some scary components to all of it,
Yeah.
but
For
like,
sure.
have you started even just using Chat GPT for
No.
tedious tasks yet? No.
No. No.
That's interesting.
I and the main reason is actually I've been so damn busy the
Yeah.
past 10 months.
Yeah.
So and because obviously Eurovision was a handful, and then I just came out of I had a plan to do it while I was on a sick leave. I replaced my left knee a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh.
But then the phone rang and I got busy again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a really good problem in a sense, right? But you know,
It is, but it's but I need to, and I asked Joan to look into it. I was like,
yeah.
hey, learn this and teach me.
Well, I'll tell you, in the quickest lesson I can possibly give you is, first of all, start, like basically download the app onto your phone, and you can now just talk to the app and you can say, hey, build me something that does this, that looks like this, that might have some background in this, and do it in the style of this, and just talk to it like it's a human
Yeah,
and you're giving a human instructions,
yeah.
and you'd be surprised what comes out of it. So it's
Do you
all
know what
about the
do you know what a
prompting.
good do you know what a good friend of mine did?
What?
Because he asked he asked that he asked for a heavy metal song about Ola Melzig doing Eurovision
Yeah.
with some in English, but with some typical Estonian catchphrases.
Yeah.
And it was so weird, but it was awesome. But it
Yeah.
was so weird. It was like I made a metal song. It was like, what? You can't even play a tune on a guitar. What are you talking about? Oh, I did this with AI. It was like, and he sent it to me. It was like, holy shit, this
Well,
is
and I don't
funny.
know if he told you how easy it was, but I've been doing a bunch of that stuff. There's these two particular apps that I've downloaded and been using a bunch. One is called Suno, and the other one's called Udio. They're the two most popular music creation apps.
Yeah,
And you can say anything. Like you could say, create a disco song about Martin Lighting that,
yeah,
you know, talks about their entire history from, you know, the 80s until today.
yeah,
And within 5 minutes, you'll have
yeah,
this incredible song. And you could say, now change it from disco to country. And
yeah,
boom, you got a country song that does
yeah.
it, you know? I mean,
We
it's
all going to become Max Martin in the end of the day. Make
this,
millions of dollars.
yeah,
Millions.
hundreds. We'll make
Hundreds
hundreds
of
of dollars, tens of
hundreds
hundreds.
of dollars.
Yeah.
Play at Stubbs in Austin, and it's going to be great.
We'll be hundred heirs.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that's really where I get into a lot of that. Two things where I get concerned heavily about AI. One is wars, you know, weaponry,
Yeah.
because, you know, again, you take away all the ethics and all the human components
Yeah.
of war, and it becomes very, very scary at that point where you can
Yeah.
just have massive global devastation. And the
Yeah.
other one
Yeah.
is creative, especially the arts. You know, whether it's music or painting or lighting design or any of those things.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to see those replaced by AI
No.
necessarily. I
No.
want to see them
No.
supported by AI, but not replaced by AI.
Yeah.
And
There's an AI plugin for Adobe that I did download that on Eurovision,
oh,
and
okay,
you just write in what you wanted to do, and it was
that's
quite
pretty
bizarre.
remarkable.
Yeah, I kind of was like I asked it to draw a picture of acid cats on mushrooms or something like that,
And that's what you got.
and that's
That's
what I
what
got.
you
It
got.
was like exactly what I was like. Wow, this is weird.
But
This
it
is
makes weird mistakes. You know, like for
yeah.
example, I've got a Geezers of Gear logo that I use or image that I use quite often in newsletters and social media and stuff. And
Mm.
nobody notices, but the singer in the band has three arms,
Oh,
you
really?
know, or you'll tell it, you know, geezers of gear, and it'll do geezers of beer or geezers of
Right.
gearlets, or like it'll just make up words and add words into it and stuff when you're clearly saying it, but it just messes up.
Yeah.
And
I'm wearing a perfect example of that, but this is made on purpose. You see what band I have on my T-shirt?
yeah, Kiss, yeah. That's hilarious. That is funny. I love that shirt. I love that shirt.
I won with Bob Marley, and it says Jimi Hendrix.
That's amazing. I love that. And how many people say something to you?
Oh, a lot of people.
Oh, really?
But I think that I found a website called tshirthell.com.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch. One of them was these, but the one that I got most comments about is that it says God bless America, except New Jersey. Fuck New Jersey.
I love that, and tend to agree with it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that has ever been at Newark will agree to that.
Newark is a nightmare. That is my least favorite, probably on Earth. It's my least favorite airport.
It's up there with Charles de Gaulle. Okay, so Dulles in Washington is
Dulles
not paradise.
Dulles is pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty. And then of course Charles de Gaulle on this other palm.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Have you ever flown into Moscow?
Yes, to both airports, both the brown one, the one that goes in 5 shades of brown and some bronze, and then or brass, and then the new one, which is actually quite nice. But
I haven't been to the new one. I was at the old one.
Ooh,
All I remember at the old one was immigration started, like it was all concrete, like you were in a barn or something, but it started really wide and it went down like this to a very narrow point where there was like 2 immigration officers at the front. So there was this crowd of like 3,000 people that was going into one entrance point, and it was the worst.
This is so funny because I remember that. And if you want to relive that, try to enter America through JFK.
Yeah, I've done that. That's nasty too.
It's a perfect replica. It's a little fancier, but I'm just like, that integration.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, read a manual of crowd control people. Call Disney, do something. Just don't do that.
Montreal used to be really bad too, but they've improved. But Montreal, you used to have to go like upstairs, through a hallway, down some stairs, around a thing, back up some stairs, and it was just lined up for miles.
Yeah,
and
it's the same in Dallas. That is Fort Worth, where you go in a 1.5-mile radius circle, covering 3 floors before you hit migration.
I can't say I've done that one. Not recently, anyways.
This is why I try to fly directly to Austin these days.
Austin manages it well.
No, but at least there's not so many idiots.
They're friendly. They're friendly as they're pissing you off.
Yeah. You got that southern charm.
I was just there a few weeks ago for a shitty reason for Craig's funeral. And
I couldn't make it because of my knee surgery. So,
well, it's crazy because I flew in on my way up. I'm up in Canada right now. I have a house up in Canada. Similar to you, I split my time, but between Florida and Western Canada.
Nice.
And so I changed all my flights and stuff after Craig passed away so that I could go through Austin, because it was the exact same day I was going to Canada. And of course, the airlines screwed up and delayed to a point where I missed the actual church funeral.
Oh, yeah.
But I got to the party later, the celebration of life or whatever.
This is the part that Craig would prioritize too.
Right.
So,
of course.
I think he's okay with that.
Yeah. Well, and it was incredible too. I mean, it was just like incredible for all the wrong reasons, and it was so sad because they had this huge screen playing all these unbelievable images of Craig, and just one of those guys that always had the biggest smile and always was having a good time and super happy.
Kind and
just an amazing guy. Amazing guy. Yeah.
It's
but anyways,
No fun. No
it
fun.
got me to Austin, which I
Yeah.
hadn't been to for a couple of
Yay.
years. So yeah, I like Austin. It's a cool
I
city.
love Austin. We've been there since 2000 and yeah, Christmas 2006. So
Oh wow.
almost, yeah, 18 years now in the making.
And
And
so
I
it,
really miss it now because we haven't been there since we came back after Christmas and New Year's holidays, mid-January, and then then we've been busy with Eurovision stuff. So we haven't been back. And then
yeah.
directly after Eurovision, I did my knee surgery. So my first day I'm allowed to fly is August 7th, which also happens to be the day we're on a plane back to Austin.
Haha, good for you.
Yeah.
So do you do like half a year there, half a year in Stockholm, or how does it work?
It varies from year to year. Obviously, when I was working with the American Song Contest, I would do
Yeah.
70% of my time in Austin.
Yeah.
I have family here in Sweden, so I have kids.
Yeah.
They're adults, so
Yeah.
they all have jobs and stuff. But still, your parents. That's a lifetime sentence that you need to respect. Um,
Lifetime
and
sentence. Yeah.
it's
Well
like a
said.
Kinder egg that refused to give or stop giving.
It's true, huh? Yeah, very true.
So
Yeah, you
it's all
can't just
depending
ditch
on
them. You can't just ditch them year round. You got to
no,
show up every once in a
yeah,
while and be a parent.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for birthdays and holidays and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
the same with my son lives in Florida. He's
yeah,
20, and it's just the past couple of years that I've started coming here for a half a year. And it's because I'm divorced now, so it's me and my
yeah,
girlfriend come here, and my son pops in when he wants to and stuff.
yeah,
But he's like, Dad, you're going for 4 months or 5 months, and I'm like, hey, you're welcome anytime, buddy.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's tough though, because I'm
yeah,
used to seeing him every day, and now
yeah.
it's on
But
FaceTime.
it's also it's then I noticed that really early in my American life that Americans have such a beautiful take on it because you're forced away from home because of university studies, sports, whatever,
True.
at an early stage. And it's not only, I mean, you're not only leaving your city, you're leaving your state,
Yeah.
and thousands of miles, and it's just not something that you lay sleepless over. It's just
Yeah.
it's so normal.
Yeah.
And that is not the case in Sweden. Sure, I mean we travel the world for culture and IKEA and Volvo and blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
you know when you relocate in Sweden, it's really hard to move more than a 6 hour drive away from
Yeah.
from where you started from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
It's a cultural thing, huh?
yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
It's
And
it, it,
the
it
thing is, I actually recommend it, because like, for example, my son's a racing driver, and last year he was gone for 5 months, I think, to the
yeah.
UK. He was racing in the UK, and
Oh,
I flew
cool.
over a couple of times for races,
Yeah.
but other than that, I didn't see him. I saw him on FaceTime every day and
Mm,
talked for 10 minutes or whatever. And
yeah.
and he had a great life over there and learned so much being on his own
Yeah.
without either of his parents,
Yeah.
learned how to
Oh,
take
I
care
mean,
of
it's
himself.
a great experience, and everyone
Yeah.
should get it. Yeah,
Oh,
everyone
I
should
I
get it.
completely agree.
And now with FaceTime and everything, it's so much
Yeah,
easier.
you're not really away from each other,
No,
you know.
no,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like he's in Chicago right now because he went to Chicago to see a concert that he wanted to see, some hip hop artist or something. I don't know who it is,
No, what's
but
wrong with him?
but so he's got racing friends from Chicago who he knows from racing on simulator on because he uses a simulator system through a
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
called with iRacing, is an online racing platform.
Uh-huh.
So he's got racing friends that he's known for 2 or 3 years that he
Mm,
races with all the time, but he's never met them. And
yeah.
so he went to this concert last night with them, and I was like, "How was that?" And he goes, "Oh, it was so cool to meet them. It was like I've known them for years." But
Right.
that's so different from when we were kids,
Yeah,
because when
yeah.
when we were young, you were either friends with somebody or you weren't, but you didn't have online friends because there was no online, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but
Uh,
it's cool,
it is cool. It is cool.
yeah.
And
And my ex-wife was a long distance relationship, She was in Chicago and I was in Canada.
Mm.
And this was when, phones cost $1 a minute, and forget about cell phones. They didn't even
Mm.
exist.
Yeah.
I say to kids all the time, like, you don't know how lucky you've got it, where you can have a
Mm.
girlfriend who lives far away and you can still see her every day and
Yeah.
stuff. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. Like
No.
my son, his first serious girlfriend, they slept together every night because
Mm.
they both had their phones on all
Yeah.
night, like
Yeah.
just on FaceTime or
Yeah.
whatever,
How
right?
cute is that?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
adorable but ridiculous at the same time,
Yeah.
but
This is true. Yeah.
yeah. And also lacking some privacy. I'm like, because I'd walk by his bedroom and I'm like, what the hell is he snoring? And then I'd realize it's her snoring through the phone, you know? It's not even him snoring.
Oh, that's
So,
funny. That's
or it's
funny.
the cat snoring on the other end or
Yeah.
something. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you ask her, it was definitely cat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So obviously, I want to talk a whole bunch about what you just went through. First of all, it's got to be cool that when you do this show in Malmo, Sweden, right? Because that's like your stomping grounds, your home territory.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Malmo. So
Yeah,
coming back doing the biggest music entertainment show in the world
yeah,
back home is of course it's amazing, and not only that, it's the second time I do it because we were there in 2013 as well
right.
in
Yeah,
the same arena.
yeah.
And I mean that's of course special.
Oh,
Um,
no kidding. Like I can't even
yeah,
imagine what that's like, other than the guest list stuff. Like where, oh, can you
yeah,
get me a couple
and
tickets? Like
yeah,
your list
and
had to be huge.
that's yeah, and that's but we did have a class reunion, the first one since 1984 because no one actually ever put any effort into oh we should have a class reunion.
Yeah,
Or 82 or when I was like a long time ago we
yeah.
graduated ninth grade. So and it all came up when I realized I'm going to spend the whole spring in Malmo.
Ah,
So me and the my two classmates that I've kept contact with throughout the years, we set up a Facebook group and got a bunch of people uh, to show up to this class reunion. And of course, every single one of them was like, "Hey, so
well, you
how
were
about
by far
tickets?"
the coolest guy in that class reunion, obviously, when you're the guy who's about to be doing Eurovision in their
This is
hometown
yeah.
and stuff. I
This
mean,
is
you're
why
like
I
a
waited
hero.
40. This is why I waited plus 40 years to do it. So
Oh my
I would
God.
have something. I always saw myself as when Peter Griffin goes to his class reunion dressed as an astronaut, cowboy, millionaire. That's what I wanted to be.
That's hilarious. That's so funny, Peter Griffin. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that had to be really cool. Where like
Yeah,
all the girls that used to diss you when you were young and go, "You're ugly, get away from me. I don't
yeah,
want nothing to do with you." Yeah,
yeah.
and
Look
now
at
they're
me
fat
now.
and
Yeah,
gross. They're fat
yeah.
and gross, and you're doing Eurovision. You
Yeah,
know?
I hang out
Yeah.
with celebrities and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I know
friggin'
people.
I use 3,000 moving lights.
Yes. How about that?
I had 708 active universes. What do you got?
Yes. Yeah. What do you got? Oh, you work in a school kitchen? Great. So nice.
That's so funny. That is so funny. That's really cool, though. I mean, what a cool thing to be able to do to go back.
Yeah, it was. But, at the same time, it was frustrating because we stayed at, there were so many people, from the normal world.
Yeah.
Um, that was like, oh, so you're going to stay with your parents for the whole duration? I was like, what's wrong with you? Why would I do that?
Yeah. No.
So obviously we stayed at the Arena Hotel, which was lovely because it was part of the security perimeter. So
No.
I would take the elevator from my room down to my office without passing any
Oh, that
security
is
point
awesome.
whatsoever. And then
That
I
is
went
awesome.
through catering and into the arena, and no security because I was already in the zone.
That is
Um,
awesome.
but the frustrating thing was we were in Malmo. On, I think it was exactly 7 weeks was the on-site production, and I managed to see my parents 3 times in that.
Wow.
And they live 3 miles from the arena.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that because you were busy or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, your focus when you go into a show like this, or any show really of any size, is like it just consumes you. It
Of course.
really, really consumes you. And when in the end of the day, I mean, I never left the office before 8 p.m. and my mom goes to bed at 8:30. So,
Uh,
what would be the point to go
yeah.
and see them
Yeah. Go
after?
kiss her goodnight and
Yeah,
go back to your hotel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get that. Well, and they
that
think, well, how could you be in town and not spend time with me? But hey,
But
sorry. Like, you want
they
to see my
understand
schedule?
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they understand it.
Yeah.
They were really cool about it because the same thing happened in 2013. To be
Yeah.
brutally honest, so
You've
they
trained
had
them.
a reference. Yeah, I trained them well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely get that. It used to happen to me all the time, and it still does because I don't know if you know where Calgary is, but
Yeah, I do.
I was born in a tiny little town, raised in Calgary, and my house is in a town called Canmore, which is about an hour and a half drive from Calgary in the Rocky Mountains. So I mean, I have
Yeah,
this unbelievable location with these
yeah,
unreal views and stuff. And my
amazing.
family and friends used to always say, "Why don't you ever come into Calgary and spend time with us?" And I'm like, because it sucks. Like, I'm in the mountains in this
Yeah,
beautiful place with
yeah,
bears and elk in our backyard and stuff. Like, come out here. We got lots of bedrooms. So over the
yeah,
years, people have finally figured it out that, it's probably better that we just book some time and come out to the mountains.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So
So,
I got to ask you, why does Canada suck at ice hockey as much as they do? And I
that's
also, here's another interesting question. Did you realize that the Stanley Cup winners, Florida Panthers, did you see how many Canadians there are in that team?
there's not that many.
There's like 12 or 14 Canadians in
I
that
don't
team.
think so. I don't think
Oh,
so.
I looked at the
Oh,
roster
really?
because I was interested into because I know there was two or three. It turns out to be four Swedes in
Yeah,
it, and then I
yeah.
was like, oh, actually, Americans are almost a minority in
Yeah.
this team. Yeah,
Well,
there's a ton of
I'm a huge
Canadians in it.
Panthers fan, and I'm in Oilers territory right now. So the past few
Right?
weeks have
Yeah,
been pretty sketchy because I've been
I
walking around
bet.
with a Panthers hoodie on every day, and people are like, "What are you doing?" And but yeah, our captain is a Finn and was the
Yeah.
first Finnish captain to win the Stanley Cup.
Well, there is a perfectly good explanation to this, and you might not know this, but Finns really, if you think Canadians suck at ice hockey, try the Finns. I
Oh
mean,
my God! Spoken by a true
useless.
Swede.
Useless,
Useless.
useless. It was like you
Uh,
can no, no, no.
I
Don't go
see we're
there.
going to have some battles going forward here, Ola,
Yes,
because
this is true.
I'm very Canadian when it comes to hockey, and prior to like probably the 2000s, it was about 80-85% Canadians playing in the NHL.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
really it started in the 80s when I think it was 88 or something when it was Makarov was the first Russian that was
yeah.
signed in the NHL and he played for Calgary,
With
my team.
yeah,
And that's when it just
yeah.
started to be
And
a
then
revolving
yeah, and
door.
then the Red Wings. Remember the Red Wings
Yes.
built the whole Russian
Yeah.
lineup.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. But it wouldn't have happened without the Swede,
Which one?
Börje Salming.
Ah, Boreas Salming, very good
He
player.
was the first European.
We had a really good Swede on Calgary too, Kent Nilsson.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then oh no, Kippersoff I think is a Finn, right? Mika
Well,
Kippersoff.
wasn't Mats Naslund in Calgary?
No, Mats Naslund was in Toronto or Vancouver, I think. Vancouver.
No. Oh, was it Vancouver? Maybe it
I
was.
think
Yeah,
so. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was Vancouver.
yeah,
Ah, it's funny. I
yeah.
always think I think of you as an Austinite for some reason, not as a Swede, and I never expected to have a hockey conversation with you. But
Right, right.
yeah,
We actually, me and Sean Lavier, we go to
yeah,
hockey in Austin every chance we get since we have
uh,
the AHL team in Austin
yeah,
now. So we have the
yeah,
Texas Stars, and
yeah.
I love that. I love the AHL because it
Oh, it's
has a little
so
bit
good.
more passion, and
They're fighting
it's
so hard to get up to the
yeah,
big leagues.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because NHL is so much discipline. It's
Yeah.
just like, but
Well, because they're getting paid
there's,
too much money now. They're getting paid $7, $8, $10 million a year. They
yeah,
don't want to get hurt.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like,
they want to live their nice
that's me.
life. It's funny because since winning the Stanley Cup, so yesterday, one of the players has a house on Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, like right on the water on the Intercoastal. And so there's all these videos. They basically, a bunch of the players piled into a golf cart with the Stanley Cup in the back between Barkov's legs. And they drove over to a bar called the Elbow Room, which I don't know if you've ever been there in Fort Lauderdale, but it's
No,
a
I haven't.
historic drunken party place in Fort Lauderdale, right on the beach. It's
Oh,
been
that's
there for
awesome.
50, 60 years. It was a big part of the spring break sort of
Yeah,
culture in Fort
right.
Lauderdale. But
Yeah.
anyways, so they went up and they had a blocked off area in the top floor, and it's all open to the street. And so they were filling the Stanley Cup with beer and then pouring it over the railing to fans that were down below. They were serving beer to fans down below, pouring it out of the Stanley Cup. So then
Awesome.
a bunch of the players grabbed the cup and they went and waited for the light so they could cross the street carrying the cup, and they dove into the ocean with the cup, just splashing straight into the ocean with the Stanley Cup. It was
Oh gosh,
hilarious. It
that's
was
so
hilarious.
funny.
Just a bunch
That's
of
so funny.
knuckleheads with the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup. Like that guy who has to guard the cup is probably just constantly going, "Oh God, what are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
You know,
Why?
yeah,
Why did you
why?
win?
Please don't take it in salt water. This thing's like 100 years old. Don't do it." So,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, it's hilarious. It's been fun watching them, with the
Yeah.
stuff that they're doing. But I would guess that Barkov is going to take it over to Finland uh,
Oh yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
a
for
couple
sure.
of
It's
days.
like it. I think that all the players get like a week with the trophy,
Yeah, well, I think they
and
all get a couple of days or
yeah,
something. But yeah, everyone gets to do what they want with it within
yeah,
reason. But like
yeah,
people will take it out fishing or they'll take it to, a hunting trip or something. Like just they do crazy things with the
yeah,
cup. It's so
yeah.
funny
It's funny.
what they
It's
think
funny.
is real important.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sweden is always constantly a pain in Canada's ass. And fortunately we beat you most years, but
Yes, yeah. You've been lucky the past couple of years, or it's more like we've
lucky
been
the
really
past couple of years,
sucking.
like what, the past 60 years? Is that what you mean?
It's like that,
You
as
can
I
count
recall
on
it.
one hand the times that you've beat us in a tournament.
As far as I know, you still haven't done the double, winning the Olympics and the World Cup in the same year. So I'm sorry, because there's only one team that ever did that.
Well, I'm going to have to Google this. I'll have
Yeah,
to
you
use Chat
can.
GPT and go get some answers to
Sweden
that.
2006.
I'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, it's Sweden in the 2006 Olympics,
Really?
and we won the World Cup the same year. And
I think that
that's
was the year
actually,
that was that the year that like we couldn't bring NHL players.
yeah, you were not
Oh,
allowed. You
well,
didn't get a
there you
visa.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
you didn't get a visa to come
No,
into the
no, it wasn't
States.
a visa. The NHL, because it was right after, as I recall, it was right after a strike, a player strike, and so they wouldn't let them come over to play in the Olympics. So
So,
we had no
so,
NHL players, which is ridiculous.
but that would have applied to the Swedish team as well. So, where is your excuse now?
Well, when you've got 4 Swedes and 400,000 freaking Canadians playing in the league, I mean, it's just a numbers game at that point,
Yeah,
Ola.
but it doesn't matter how many you are if you all suck.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I
Yes.
mean, there have been some good Swedish players. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, one.
Oh, there's been a few. There's been a
Yeah.
bunch. There's been a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so, going back to Eurovision, which is a big
mhm.
reason why we're here talking. Um, this year, 2024 Eurovision broke so many world records.
Yeah.
And also one of the things I read, and I think you might have even sent us this note, was it was the first major show running all content through a new version of SMPTE, I guess, which is called
Yeah.
ST 2110.
Yeah.
And so I want to learn a little bit about that, because I remember using SMPTE for a lot of things, but I didn't realize it was still being updated and stuff. So maybe
Yeah.
you can talk a bit about that, but also, audio, like tons and tons of L-acoustics, and the lighting list is just insane.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And yeah.
708 active universes. Like, that's
Yeah.
just what?
Plus another 700 pixel matte through the disguised media service. So, but
Unbelievable.
who's counting?
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. Like, how did this show get this big?
Well, the thing was, well, it's, oh, you want the long version or
Sure.
the
No, we got
yeah.
time.
So Eurovision was a studio production up till 2000. When Sweden won it in 1999, the executive producer decided, like, let's bring this into a big arena. Let's turn it into more like a live show than a TV studio production.
Mm-hmm.
So we went into the Globe Arena in Stockholm and produced it in a completely different way, and tons more camera, and 12,000 people in the audience, and 650 moving lights, which was an enormous amount
That
of
is
moving
massive for
lights
back then. Yeah.
back in 2000. It was like,
Jesus.
what are you doing?
That's crazy. Well, and they weren't as reliable as they are today either, so that had to be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and it was actually the first real show that the Barelight Virtuoso did.
Really?
It had done the medal stage at the Olympics in 2000, that spring, and a medal stage in the Olympics. What is that? 24 moving lights. Now it was like every single of those 1,999 DMX channels were at use.
Yeah.
Sarah Clausen was there. Like, oh, it was lovely, and that's where it began. Because we had LED walls on wireless radio controlled risers, so we could move around LED screens. And again, this is 2000. It was like it was crazy. We had a big Schoenberg system, so we had moving trusses, and it was over the top. And
yeah,
and then from there on, it kind of became a double challenge, and it became a tech competition as much as a song competition. Because obviously you want to outdo the previous broadcast. And we early on discovered that since this is a show that is, what differs Eurovision from many other shows is that we're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not like when you work with, Beyonce, that God forbid, if you take a picture of your meal and catering, you're fired.
Yeah.
Eurovision is completely opposite. We release the set design like 5 months before the show or 6 months before the show. We leak stuff on purpose to the media because we want to keep a momentum leading up to the.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's a brilliant move. I think it's a brilliant, because it raises everything up, the anticipation and excitement around the show.
It does. But it's also very interesting with it is that it gives you a perfect marketing platform for manufacturers. Because they are free to speak about. We work with something, we call them official technical partners. And we don't receive anything for free. We pay a reasonable rental price, but we get good discounts, but we never get anything for free.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. If you get something for free, you're going to lack on one of the most important things. The most important thing, which is 100% support when shit goes wrong.
Well, and also some authenticity. Like, did you pick this because it was free, or did you pick this because it was the right product to use for that perfect situation or whatever?
Yeah. And it's so funny because there is one global rental company that always accuses manufacturers for giving stuff away to Eurovision for free. besides those years when they do the supply.
That's funny.
And they enjoy the same benefits.
Yeah.
So because it is beneficial for the rental companies as well, because they get a handling fee. They first of all, they get a great investment opportunity.
Yeah.
Get all the support they want, and if they choose not to invest, well, they still get money to handle the equipment.
Yeah.
That they didn't spend a cent on investment. So it's literally money for nothing. And their existing rental house can go out and do their existing inventory can do other shows.
Well, and I mean, let's face it, you know, for like Martin, for example, to put the Mac 1 out on a show this big, for Ayrton to put the salami light, as you call it, or the kailami, or however it's pronounced.
Calamari.
Yeah, calamari. You know, for them to put that out on a show this size, and not only just to showcase it as a new product, but for it to be reliable, like these things right out of the gate, coming out and behaving well and stuff. That's huge. Yeah.
It is huge. And I mean, trust me, we use the living daylight out of the pictures. Front House is operating 20 hours a day for 4 weeks.
Wild.
So, because we have a day shift and night shift of programmers. So, you know, the venue never sleeps. It's because you know, first of all, it's like, as we said, you have 700 something universes of parameters to control and be creative with.
Yeah.
So, and everything starts with a 4 week of previs to have, you know, the basics of the show. You have to have around 80% of the show in your system before we go into rehearsals to be able to accommodate all the changes, all the requests of changes that comes from the delegations and openings and interval acts and whatnot. But it's a massive setup. And the ST2110 actually originated from one of our technical partners, which was Megapixel. Because we were in a meeting together with CT, Creative Technologies in Sweden, and Megapixel, talking about, you know, possibilities. And it was, you know, it was a perfect investment opportunity for CT, because they needed that's the processors that they're using on all their screens. So they already have a big inventory of megapixel processors. But they were interested also in upgrading to the 8K MVR processors, and they were offered a very genuine and good discount on that, which would boil over to me at the next stage. And it was in one of those meetings they said, "Hey, have you considered doing this in 2110?" And Niklas from CT is like, "Well, yeah, if that's a possibility, that would be awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, this is cool," and just frantically Googling, what the hell is ST2110? I was like, I have no idea. And I realized that it is the new standard for content distribution, any sort of content distribution within television.
Right.
So it is the new standard. It's going to be the new worldwide standard of how you feed broadcast content or any sort of content, and it's all fiber based. There is not a single piece of copper in the setup, and we were distributing content up to speeds of 2.2 terabytes per second.
Jesus, wow!
And I was just like, well, that's cool. And then I was like, well, how much is that really? And then you start thinking about, what is your download speed on your high-speed internet at home that you pay plenty of dollars for?
Yeah.
And that's when you start realizing like how much data that really is.
Massive.
It's massive, and it went without a glitch. So
that is amazing. That's so impressive.
and megapixel was all about, that will add the value to our partnership that we need. Because the Eurovision, we can do that all day long, and a lot of suppliers are using our processors. There's nothing new with that. But if you guys are willing to swim out to very dark and murky waters and go for ST2110, we can make that happen for you. So we decided that, okay, let's try this. So obviously the next call was with Disguise, because we needed cards in the servers to support this.
Right.
And I think they're like $15,000 a pop, and we had 10 servers. So I was like, well, that's not going to work. But again, we have a long-lasting relationship with these guys from Eurovision. They've been an official technical partner in the past. And I was like, hey, wouldn't this be an enormous marketing value for you guys if we did this? And it's like, but we're going to need your help. And no, we're not going to pay $15,000 for a card. And I can assure you that Creative Technology would also not pay that money. We need to find.
We got to figure something out.
Can we rent the cards, or how can we do this? And they were very excited about it as well. So that's how it came to play.
That's crazy.
And in my mind, Eurovision is the show that should be the first ones doing it.
Yeah.
And the timing was perfect. As I understood, they looked into doing it at the Sphere in Vegas, but it was just too early on in the development.
That would be wild.
It was just too early on in the development. That new protocol was not there yet.
That'd be wild. What a cool fit that would be.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to upgrade at some point, but it was, and that's exactly what Eurovision should be. It should be the frontier of new technology, and that's always what drives me doing this show, because Eurovision has one thing that most other shows doesn't have, and that's a good portion of rehearsal.
Yeah.
We are in almost 3 weeks of full production rehearsals before we go into the first broadcast.
Yeah.
So, and that's the time you need to be able to, when you introduce new technologies or using existing technologies in a brand new way, you need that lead time. You need that time to figure shit out. You need to have time at your hands to allow things to go wrong, because they if they can, they most probably will.
Of course.
And that's how we ended up. I mean, we built the first LED floor ever in 2003. Did we patent it? No, we didn't. And am I still upset about that? Yes, I am.
Well, I'm not, because when you patent things, you tend to slow them down, not speed up the technology or the utilization of it or anything.
Yeah, but millions of dollars.
Hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
I wouldn't be on this call if I patented it. I would be in Bahamas drinking Bahama Mama.
Hey, sounds fun. So I have a whole bunch of questions based on some of the stuff you just said. So first of all, most of the time when I'm talking to production people or designers or anyone involved in creating shows, it's about the performer. We're just there to augment the star, Beyonce or Mick Jagger or whoever it is. Is this the unique example where that's not the case, where actually the gear and the technology is the performer, and the actual performers and the person winning the contest are secondary?
No, actually, it is because of the performer that we have this big toolbox. Because, mind you, we need to produce 36, 38, 41 songs on equal terms, and we all have to make them unique and stand out by themselves. So, and that's the reason for the big creative toolbox that I always provide to my creative team, for them to have a flying chance in hell to actually produce that many unique performances, because that's our job.
But Eurovision is one where people don't, at least most of the people I talk to, which again are very leaning towards our industry, but people talk about the performance of the gear, not near as much that one singer from, Spain was unbelievable or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I never remember which country won. Not that it matters to me, but
me neither.
I remember what gear was on it.
Yeah, and that is the problem, or the challenge for Eurovision, is that it, over the 68 years in existence, it has produced
that long, huh?
A very, very little amount of superstars. Artists that came out of Eurovision is Cliff Richard, ABBA, of course.
ABBA came out of Eurovision? I didn't know that.
ABBA won Eurovision 1974.
Whoa,
so,
wow,
yeah,
I had no idea. That's wild.
That's how they came to fame. And I mean, it went pretty well for them.
No kidding, yeah.
Celine Dion won Eurovision.
Well, and since your hockey is so lame, they put Sweden on the map too. ABBA
exactly.
Did. Yeah,
that's what they're really good at.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Not so good at hockey, but
no, and it's so funny because that is the starting of the Swedish music wonder, and the enormous amount of music export we have.
Yeah.
In both performing but also producing. Like a guy like Max Martin, that is, I think he's the second most successful songwriter in the world after Sir Paul McCartney.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought it'd be like Bernie Taupin or something.
Google Max Martin. He has more Billboard #1s than most people.
That's impressive. Yeah.
And what is also amazing is that it's an array from Britney Spears to Kiss to Bon Jovi to Katy Perry to Pink. It's
wild.
New Kids on the Block. It's all over the place. It's all over the place.
But back to this whole concept of the artist or the gear. Again, like, even people I know who are way outside the industry, like there's a guy I know in England who's in racing, and he loves the pop artists and stuff. And every year he's texting me during Eurovision saying, "Oh, what was that light? Oh, what was that light? What's that laser thing?" Because he knows that I'm in this business. But he's always more excited about the show than the singer. And like you said, it's a bit problematic because, at America's Got Talent or American Idol or The Voice or whatever, it's nothing about the gear. Like, yes, they're nice looking shows, but it's not about the gear at all. The gear isn't marketed.
But those shows can depend on hit songs.
Right.
Eurovision is all about original music.
Yeah, it's 100% original.
And for more than 100 million of the viewers, when they watch Eurovision, that's the first time they hear that song ever. Yeah. And in many cases, also the last time. So, and we had the same challenge with American Song Contest. That is all original songs. So even if we put big names like Michael Bolton and Jewel and stuff on stage to represent their state, they were doing it by releasing a whole new song that no one had ever heard.
Yeah, and
that's always a challenge. That's the tricky part. While on Idol or X Factor, it's covers of already world famous songs.
Yeah.
So you don't need to polish that turd.
Although that's changing a bit. Like on America's Got Talent in particular, there was a country guy that used to be an Elvis impersonator. He was either last year or the year before, but one of the judges said, "I guarantee you that song is going to be #1 on iTunes tomorrow." And it was. And the guy went on to he didn't even win America's Got Talent. I think he finished second or third.
And I love stories like that.
He's gone on to become a massive star, sold tons of albums and that kind of thing. But, you would think just from the social media exposure that these people are getting, and you know,
But it's also changing because 2019 when Holland won, that song actually became a hit worldwide. And it was in movies and it was in commercials. Even it was like I almost drove off the road when I heard it on a radio channel in Austin the first time, because I was
Yeah.
sure it's like I never had to listen to that song again, because I I can say it now. I never liked that song, and I didn't see what people saw in it.
Yeah.
But then then um, then in Holland, Måneskin wins, and
Yeah.
I mean Måneskin is doing the ABBA journey now. They really do. So there's I think credibility
Måneskin,
is
is that the one with the girl bass player who's always half
yeah,
naked? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She's
And
quite talented.
I mean, they sold out Madison
I'm
Square
kidding. I'm
Garden.
joking.
Have you ever heard about the Eurovision winner selling out Madison Square Garden?
No, and I didn't
Never.
know that they were that big either.
Yeah, they
How
are,
is it
and
pronounced Måneskin when it's spelled Maneskin?
so because it's actually Danish for moonlight,
Oh, I did not
um,
know that.
and because the bass player she is Danish.
Okay. Huh.
I think that in Danish it's actually an A with a dot on top.
Okay.
So it
So it's
turns an A
pronounced
into
Måneskin.
an
Okay.
O.
Yeah.
Yeah. Us Scandinavians,
You Scandinavians are wacky.
we have three more letters than the rest of you, because we
Right,
get
of
O,
course.
which also
Yeah.
means we have three more plans to go to in backup.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So, the next question I had is how are decisions made on gear? Like, is that you initially, or do you have a whole design team that you're working with right out of the gate, and then you come up with that list, or is it you sort of on your own cutting deals with the manufacturers and the suppliers, and then saying, okay, design team, here's the toolkit you've got to use this year?
Yeah. No, so it always starts with a set design.
Okay.
That's the first thing that is chosen.
And who does that?
The executive team.
Okay.
We send out an RFP and ask, established set designers, both national and international, to send in a pitch based on a bunch of keywords, and some practical information that it needs to be at least this wide and this deep and have access ramps and such.
And do you know the venue at that point? So you could say it needs to fit into this space?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Often we do. This year we did. But well, actually, most often we do. But we actually don't give that. We don't want to give any restrictions really in the first, because we can always scale it so it fits. Once we place the stage, we can scale it so it all fits together with the infrastructure.
A bit off topic. Have you ever done a stadium, like a football stadium?
We've done indoor football stadium in 2011 in Düsseldorf.
Yeah.
It was on the table for Sweden this year because we have a huge arena here in Stockholm. The problem is that, you have so many more cubic meters of air that you need to fill with lights and sound.
Yeah.
And it just turns into a poor business deal, because you can sell out as many grand finals as you want, but you won't sell out the semifinals.
Yeah.
So actually, the ice hockey arena format is perfect for Eurovision because it's big enough to allow plus 10,000 people in the audience. And it's small enough to be an environment that you can control when it comes to ventilation and smoke and pyro. And so you choose the camera lenses to make it big on TV, which is the real audience. I mean, everything we do in the arena, every decision we make in pre-production is based on the television audience.
How big is that television audience?
This year was around 160 million.
Wow. That
Oscars have
massive.
30. Super Bowl has 72.
That is wild. That's huge.
So it makes it by far the largest music entertainment show in the world.
That is wild.
There's nothing
growing.
close to it. And growing, and then of course you have the whole online and streaming, which is really, really, really hard to keep a tab on. So
because once it goes out there, it just spins into thousands of different places, some of which you know, some you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's crazy.
Imagine if 10% of India watch. Well,
double your numbers.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Back to the decisions on gear. So you said it starts with a set, and so once you've chosen a set design,
we're going to lighting design, and it's the lighting designer who decides. He makes a first list of this is what I want to use.
But is that list brand agnostic or brand specific?
Brand specific.
So he's saying, I want Mac 1s, and you got to go make a deal with Martin. Is that how that works?
If he says that, yes. I mean, there are several ways, because there's always compromises. As in any other show, there is reality and there is budget, and that we need to meet. And it's all finding to make the right compromises. This year was easy because Fredrik Stormby, the lighting designer, he's actually all over the place when it comes to. He likes Roby, he likes Clay Packy, he likes Ayrton. He's not religious to a brand in any sense.
Which is cool, because you represented almost every major manufacturer on this year's show. GLP, Chauvet, Ayrton, Astera, Clay Packy.
But what we try to do is to do the basic rig, the workhorses of the rig, coming from the same manufacturer. So all their spot instruments and wash instruments and profile and whatnot comes from the same manufacturer, because it speeds up programming time enormously. And also, color matching and all that. And when then all of a sudden that list becomes quite little. Because one of the big challenges we have right now is going from discharge to LED or laser, and going away from traditional follow spots into remote follow spot systems, where the source is where the source is a moving head. And there are not that many moving heads out there powerful or with good CRI enough to actually work well as a key light on the broadcast. So there is a gap.
Interesting.
There is a gap that was created, obviously not on purpose. It's just like technology hasn't really gotten into, because now we used Follow Me this year for key lighting, and we had 60 key light fixtures, 64 key light fixtures on automation trusses, because everything moved, so key light had to move as well.
Oh boy.
And also, for the first time in the history of mankind, Eurovision was in a 360 environment. So we were shooting this show in all directions.
Wow.
Which of course also adds to the headache of, because you can't do television without outstanding key lighting. You just can't. Well, I'm sure you can, but that's by far the most important.
Well, yeah,
part
I
of
remember
the
every
lighting.
time, every time I was involved with a show and they were going to shoot an HBO special or a television special or a movie or something, you'd have either Bobby Dickinson or, one of the Bob Barnhart, one of the big television designers would come in with a huge Verilight audience package, of just a bunch of Verilight stuff, regardless of what was on stage, just to do the TV shoot. So, and you're doing sort of a multi-purpose live thing plus a TV shoot all within the same package with the same design team, etc. So it's a little more complicated on that. But another question.
We came to the conclusion that Ayrton was under the circumstances of what we're doing, and Frederick had a very outspoken. It's like, I don't want to see a single discharge bulb in this rig, because I want to do a statement of the future is here, and also being sustainable, because obviously they LED or laser driven lights consume much less power. Because when you turn them off, they're off. When you're not using them, they consume,
of course,
almost nothing.
That's one of the biggest changes with LED that a lot of people don't even think of. At a tour, you go in at 11 o'clock in the morning, the lights are on from then until 11 o'clock at night. They never turn off. Versus with LED, they're just on whenever you need them on, right?
Exactly. So, and I mean, it does miracles to the pile of dollars that you spend on diesel.
Can't even imagine the difference. So you used a bunch of Rivalis on this one too. Which I think is a great fixture. It's a beautiful fixture.
Love it. And they're extremely reliable. And then, of course, we had the world premiere of the Ayrton Kailami, also known as the salami or the calamari. When Michael Althaus showed up at the venue for last show week, he had actually found a T-shirt that said, "I heart calamari," as a gift for me.
That's hilarious.
And it was
that is so good.
Thanks for renaming our lights.
That is so good. Well, I mean, Marketing 101 says, don't create any product that people struggle to pronounce. And Ayrton's destroyed that 100 times in their product lineup, and hey, God bless them. I know that I know that Ivan is a huge car junkie and racing junkie and stuff.
Apparently it's a racetrack in South Africa.
It is. It is.
So I mean that was because I do believe we had the entire world stock on Eurovision.
Wow.
And we had 138 of them, and I think that was the world stock.
Well, one of the huge advantages you guys have, you being Europeans, is that you can use laser sourced fixtures. Like over here in the US, it's such a pain in the ass with all the variances and rules and stuff,
And especially considering that go into any movie theater
and there's a laser video
projector is laser driven.
Of course, and you can turn around and look straight at it.
Then
what's
it's fine.
The difference?
But it's ridiculous.
Or the other thing is, like, there's shows with hundreds of Sharpies on it, and a Sharpie is going to do more damage to your eyes than a Kyalami is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it's just stupid. It's typical of a government rule. Well, and by the way, those variances, I don't know if you know this, but do you know who controls them? The Food and Drug Administration.
I know. Yeah, it's the
like,
FDA,
what the hell? The FDA controls laser concert lighting fixtures. Like, why? This makes no sense at all.
Yeah. We were bringing an ice bar to a big trade show at the McCormick Place in Chicago. This is 10, 15 years ago. And this was for the big tool show. I can't remember what it's called. And it was for a Swedish company. And as a part of it was glasses made out of ice from a river up north in Sweden. And they would serve alcohol to guests at the trade show in Chicago.
No way.
You can imagine the paperwork that we had to file for FDA.
Chicago is one of the worst too.
You know what the one thing they said no to was the alcohol.
Yeah, of course. No, because they want you to buy it from them because they're going to charge you $20 for the same thing that you're going to pay $1 for.
But serving healthy Americans with juice in glasses made of ice from a river up in northern Sweden. That actually went through.
Similarly, when I was with Martin, one time Peter Johansson sent over a container of Martin beer, a full container of beer. And we started to bring it out, and somebody from the trade show, it was probably Las Vegas or something, I can't remember, but they came over to us and said, that goes straight back into that shipping container. And we're like, what do you mean? This is for our customers. It's free. We're not selling it. They said, I don't care. You can buy beer from us if you want to give it away. And so we tried sneaking it in, and they'd see the labels and they'd come back and say, we're going to fine you $100,000 and all this stuff. So we just had to give up and buy beer from them. It was crazy. Back to, so one of my big questions, why are you so willing, and not even willing, but like passionate about trying new technology on such a massive show? Because I will tell you, I've worked with a lot of major producers and designers and stuff who are usually taking it pretty safe. Like the Grammys, I want proven technology. The Super Bowl, I want proven technology. You know, they don't want to be dealing with failures and stuff, right? But why is it that you're so passionate about trying new stuff?
That's the beauty with Europe. It's like you won't have 200 lawyers chasing your ass if you fuck up.
That's true. Yeah, that's true too.
Which actually gives you a creative freedom to an extent that you don't have in America, because you always, that is a real danger waiting to happen. But I also think that the European mentality is, I don't know, there's something in our DNA that makes it easier for us to embrace new technology. And go out of our comfort zone.
It's interesting because, I mean, you know, Kailami, for example, like you could have used the mini Stelos, for example, you know, and I don't know if it's better or worse or anything. I don't know anything about either one of those, but you know, it's been out for a year or a year and a half. It's safe, you know, it's going to be good. And I mean, obviously I know when Ayrton kicks something out the door, it's pretty flawless. And
you know, we actually specify those based on some sketches from Ayrton.
Wow.
And a tech spec. The first time Frederick saw the picture was on the first day of pre-programming in his studio in Stockholm. I saw it a week earlier at Pro Light and Sound.
Yeah.
And
that's wild.
And it's one of those. But I mean, we've done this for so many years now. I mean, 2002, we built the whole Eurovision on a new funky thing coming out of Austin, Texas, called Catalyst.
Yeah.
Beta version 1.
Brave.
There was 3 clips in the library. There was an American flag waving in slow motion in the wind.
I remember that one.
There was a top shot of a match that was ignited, so it was like a fireball.
I remember that one.
And there was a slow-mo still image panning appear in Brighton.
Wow.
That was it. And we realized very late that, we spend all our money on servers, these catalysts and mirror heads and projectors, but we'll have free video clips that we can play. And none of them will do it for this show.
No.
So we ended up having we were in Estonia at the time. So it was a married couple, husband and wife, making all the content for Estonian television sports, that made all video content for Eurovision Song Contest 2002. And they would, after they were done at Estonian television, They went
Yeah.
home, they had dinner, and then they remained at the kitchen table producing video content halfway through the night. And every morning on their way to Estonian television, they would drop off hard drives with new content that was
Wow. That is
specified by them.
insane. That's
Yeah.
wild.
And it was also, this was, in the early days, since the catalyst was DMX control, it by default became a lighting tool.
Yeah.
So, which also meant that the responsibility for the video content
Fell
was
on
on the
lighting.
lighting designer
Yeah.
to figure
Yeah.
out. There was no content company back then you could call.
No.
That was
Yeah.
just like there were people in basements doing stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I sometimes I pinch myself in the arms, like, wow, we were actually there in the very beginning
Of so
of
many things. Like,
this revolution. And I mean, that's the implement of video. I think that's the one thing that has had the biggest impact on everything that we're doing today, because it's just like all of a sudden you needed hundreds of DMX channels just to operate one server. So the lighting desks needed to perk up,
yeah.
and you had the whole lighting industry going to Barco. It was like, why are you just making boring panels that are like 4x4? We want creative stuff. We want different shapes. We want brighter. We want lighter, more expensive. Why is the projectors only 30,000 lumens? We can't work with that. And it was like, you need to bump it up to 60 at least. And it was like, and since I was one of them saying all this, I also know they were absolutely terrified. It was like, what is this? Who are these crazy guys? Like, can we please go back to do corporate events for doctors?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. So, were there any unique challenges this year? Like, I know you said everything performed well and all the gear worked great and all of that stuff, but were there any like really unique challenges that were like, oh shit moments?
Yeah. Many actually. The first one was when we start to realize everything that happens when you move the stage out from the back wall and go into more in center into the arena.
Yeah.
Because, where do you find the weakest beams in any arena? It's in the center.
Yeah, in the center, of course.
Yeah, the heavy duty beams are in the back where you usually put your stage.
Right.
And all of a sudden we had 5 LED cubes weighing around 3 tons each, suspended off the 2 weakest points or 2 weakest beams in the arena.
Right.
So a lot of super truss to distribute the weight away from there.
Wow.
Then we had a rig of 210 tons. We had 100 and let's see here, 100 and we had 199 C1 rigging points.
Jesus.
So it's a new world record with what amount of cyber hoist used in a show. So
Wow.
China and your New Year's show with 150, I say.
That's hilarious.
But the dynamic loads of that, adding stress to that ceiling, which we were already 50 tons heavier than anything that had ever gone into that arena.
Wow.
And then we had almost 200 points where you had to factor 1.8 because of the dynamics.
So you probably had a pretty big engineering crew in there looking at just safety and everything else, right?
Yeah, it's a Finnish company who built the venue, so we kept our engineers very, very busy for many weeks before we finally got a sign off. But while we were doing that, and we started to look at the 3D model, we discovered that, well, hang on, all those tech areas that you have traditionally, stage right and left, you have automation, you have camera control, you have monitor, you have pyro, all that stuff. All of a sudden, all those positions were center background in all your diagonal shots because you moved the stage so far out. So then comes the fun exercise to find a new home for all these people. And
Yeah.
then it's a lot of people that needs to move to somewhere where they still have a clear sight of what they're operating.
Yikes.
In terms of 2D cameras and drop cams and all that stuff.
Wow.
So that was a major undertaking. And then once we came into the arena and started to look at this in camera, you realize that all of a sudden you have a lot of ugly bits and pieces of arena in a lot of shots. Because, the frontal shots were, the diagonal shots were more than the frontal shots this year.
Yeah.
So it was produced in a completely different way than that you historically produce a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So, and less blackouts. It felt like there was rolls of black molten arriving to the venue on a daily basis at one point, because it was just like, because we saw things in camera that we'd never seen before, and it wasn't pretty. So that was a big challenge.
Yeah.
We thought that it would be very hard for our artists to master this environment.
Being in the round, you mean?
Yeah, because if you think about it, even on a professional level, it takes a special X factor to perform in the round. There's a lot of professional artists that just don't do it well. So we reached out to all the delegations fairly early on, already in December, presenting the stage for them and asking them, keep this in mind when you start producing your number. And in some cases, actually, when you choose your artist, because some countries just decide, okay, this is the artist that's going to represent us this year, and here's the song, and off you get. While Sweden does it in the most elaborate way. It's a 6-week tour around Sweden to choose who's going to represent us.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. And it's actually the most watched show on Swedish television every year. Yeah. Even more than the Donald Duck Christmas special on Christmas Eve.
More than the ABBA Easter show or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
More than all of it.
More than the hockey Olympics when Canada's beating you again?
No. We stopped watching hockey. We're waiting for the new generation to show up.
I understand. No, I mean, it's wild how big this thing has become. It's just, it's incredible, and it never seems to stop. Like, it just seems to keep getting bigger.
And the thing is also, I take full blame. When I'm involved, I always want us to achieve those moments. Well, I want my creatives to achieve those moments when the audience go, how the fuck did they do that?
Yeah.
Because when you reach to that point, you succeeded.
Yeah.
Because it's pushing borders, and this year we were pushing.
Yeah.
More than ever.
This year was insane
on every level, and it was so funny when the set design from Florian was decided or chosen. He says, finally. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, I had this idea for years, but I had to save it for Sweden, because Sweden would be the only country that would be brave enough to do it. Because there is a long Eurovision production history in this. There is a bunch of us that's done. I mean, I've done 16 Eurovisions, 4 of them in Sweden and 12 of them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there is a very solid knowledge of how to produce TV, how to make good TV, what is good TV, what is the definition of that. Produce big shows because of our massive music export and all our big artists, but also the fact that this is the third time that Swedish television produced Eurovision since 2013. most countries have not in Eurovision has not won 3 times even.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so there is we're very relaxed in front of the challenge, and it's more like, how can we outdo what we did last time? That's what drives everyone in the creative team, and it's just,
Yeah.
for me, it's just to try to keep the pace with them, because the combo of Florian Wieder, Frederick Stormby, and our multi-camera director, the senior multi-camera director Robin Hoffander, was it was turbo speed.
But you
Like,
change up the key people. Is it every year, or like, do you have a different lighting? I think you have a different lighting designer every year, and
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, they're all returning at some point.
right,
Well, I mean, I've done Eurovision with, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 or 8 or 9, 10 different lighting designers, I
right,
think.
huh? Well, it takes a
And
pretty special person to bring into that environment too, because I mean, not everybody can design a show with a couple thousand moving lights,
yeah, yeah.
and that much just stuff going on, like just
And also, how you build a structure around it,
yeah,
how do you, it's all down to how you build your show file and what you name stuff.
yeah,
It's like, it's because it's growing. And this year, another world record we did this year was obviously the show file. It's 1.2 gigabytes,
that's
the
insane.
MA3 show file. Our whole system, our MA network, was the biggest one ever. It's actually twice as big as the second biggest one, which
That's
I
wild.
should know which one that is, but I don't.
Yeah.
And protocol. For the operators, is like, don't do this.
How,
don't, because they were all in the same, lighting was all in the same session.
right.
So you have to be, if you hit one wrong button, the whole system goes down. It's like,
How does
there
how
is
does the
an incident.
oh yeah, an incident. Excuse me, we need to have a
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
MA didn't like when we said the system crashed. It was like, no, this is actually not a system crash. This is just an incident. It's like, okay.
Okay. Well, you can call it
Still,
whatever you want, but fix it,
shit,
please.
shit doesn't work. And we had 24/7 on-site support from MA.
Of course. I mean, when
Yeah,
you're the biggest system that's ever been
yeah, yeah,
used, I mean,
yeah,
obviously they want to have people
yeah.
there.
And we all learned a lot, both them and us, because we were on our uncharted waters.
Yeah.
It was so much bigger than anything that had been done
I
before.
assume it was all MA3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does the creative process work with regard to the collaboration between your team and the delegate team or delegation team?
Mhm.
So, like, in a festival, for example, you have a whole bunch of artists, and then you have the main designer for the entire festival. And then if the bigger artists, their designer will get to collaborate with the main designer and may get to change some things, add a few fixtures, whatever it is. But how's it work with you guys?
Um, all all countries that participate are co-producers to the show, simply because they're participating members of the EBU,
Yeah.
European Broadcasting Union. So we have to respect their 3 minutes that they own. We really have to respect and listen to them about that. And what we do is, like, we send out a lot of templates for them to fill in. We want a look and feel document where they break down the song. It was like, what is the intro? What is the first verse? What is the first chorus? And support that with images, what they see in terms of mood and lighting and whatnot. We allow them to bring their own video content. We allow them to bring their own overlays.
But not their
We
own lighting director or front of
No,
house engineer or anything, right?
no,
Yeah.
no. It's our show,
Yeah.
so we do allow them to do live edit scripts and send to the director as suggestions. and we all use this as really really valuable feedback, because in many senses they do our job for us.
Yeah.
And our content department maybe has 48 hours to spend on 3 minutes of music. If we are to produce the content, which is a service that we offer for free, but it's limited to 48 hours. If they produce it themselves, they can spend months
Right.
on it. So, obviously that would be better. Then again, there's not all countries that are interested or can afford to do that.
Right.
So we offer that service. It's on the house.
But do you ever have a situation where, either an artist or a delegate or, a friggin' president of a country comes to you and says, you fucked up our show and, it's your fault that we didn't win this year? Like, do you ever have those conversations?
It has never happened.
Right.
In the end, it happens during the journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
There are some nationalities to choose to express their feelings a bit more violent than others.
Yeah.
Not everyone are as subtle as us Scandinavians.
Yeah. Of course.
And it's funny when you realize that we used to be Vikings. Well, we're still Vikings.
You
we
still
just
are. I was going to say, yeah.
We don't express ourselves that way.
You just drive Volvos instead of sailboats now.
Hey, I drive a Dodge Ram. America.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for
because
you.
that apparently that increased my freedom.
Yeah, of course it does.
I saw that on a commercial. Yes.
Yeah. You're much freer now. And smoke Marlboro, you'll be even more free. Yeah.
So much free. But we have a contest. We have a contest producer, and him and his team is in constant contact with the delegations from early January, when songs are starting to be selected and there's something to talk about. And they talk about the performance, and they talk about, how to stage it, props, additional lighting, blazers, pyro, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, in one sense, how can these people complain? Because they've never stood under a rig like this before in their lives. So, like, how could they possibly complain? It's not good enough.
And it's so funny, because in 2016, we had Justin Timberlake as a guest star.
Oh, wow.
And when he walked in on
was
that
he sober?
Stage, oh, yeah.
Because, apparently he's got a drinking problem now or something.
Oh, really?
So,
I didn't know that.
He just
I know that we spent
he got busted for a DUI
shit.
like last week or something.
Oh, shit. That
bad
sucks.
joke. Yeah.
I didn't know that. But no, I know we spend $3,000 in flying in caffeine-free Diet Coke to his dressing room, because that's a product that doesn't exist in Sweden.
Right.
It was like, what's the point of not having caffeine? What's wrong with you? Everything that is supposed to have caffeine in it has caffeine in it.
Well, I remember when I used to go to Europe and try to get Diet Coke, and they'd say, "What? We don't have that. We have Coke." No. And then they started with Coca Light. Coca Light came around.
The funny thing is that the table has turned now, because try to go into any restaurant and get a Coke Zero in America. You get Diet Coke, but not Coke Zero.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Come on.
Yeah. Coke Zero tastes so much better than Diet Coke.
So much better.
Yeah. I mean, they're both killing you, but it tastes better, at least while it's killing you.
At least you're enjoying it.
Yeah, at least you're enjoying death.
It's like a good cigar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we're very, very active with the do's and don'ts of the delegations, and try to support them and encourage them to do stuff outside of the box. And then, of course, it comes with a bunch of rules and guidelines of what you can and what you can't do.
Right.
They're free to build and bring their own props. Anything with a cable attached to it comes from us, because we don't allow any alien technology into our system. Yeah, so if they want extra lights or whatever, it comes from our suppliers, not them. So
Well,
no,
because otherwise the
they're
supplier's going, they brought in these light fixtures and that messed everything up. It wasn't our fault. Everybody's
yeah,
pointing fingers this way,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and also we need to ensure that stuff is good
of
enough.
course. Yeah.
I did one Eurovision in Germany where I was the concert producer, so I was not part of the production. And I think it was Russia that showed up with some homemade LED screens that someone has soldered together in a kitchen in Kiev,
Oh my
Ukraine.
God.
And it was just the biggest piece of shit one have ever
I
seen
can
on a
only
television
imagine.
screen.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this? Oh, it's like they wanted LED screens. Like, why aren't we supplying that? Oh, but they said they had really good stuff.
Uh,
Great.
yuck. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to control from top to bottom. I mean, it just doesn't
Yeah, no,
make
I
any
mean,
sense to let
it's
someone
no,
do
I
that.
always say it's okay to look like an idiot if it's by your own doing.
Yeah,
But if
right.
someone else does it,
No,
it's like
no
they
good.
need to die. They
Yeah.
die.
One of the last things I really wanted to ask you about the something that I really enjoyed this year. I didn't know it existed prior, but I know you brag that you're one of the you were a blogger before blogging was a thing. And so this year I just caught on to your Eurovision diary, I think on Instagram probably.
Yep, yep.
And I really enjoyed it. Like I loved you were posting video updates. I don't know if it was daily or weekly or whatever, but I really enjoyed that. So how did that all come about?
Well, it started in 2002 when I decided, because that was my first Eurovision was in Sweden, here in Stockholm, 2000. And in 2002, I took a whole pile of people and we went to Estonia, to Tallinn, to produce Eurovision that year. And, you know, Estonia was a brand new country. It was like a couple of years earlier, that was USSR. No
Yeah.
one really, I didn't know that Tallinn was actually the closest capital to Stockholm.
Ah,
It's, you know, it's right on the other side of the pond from Stockholm. So it's very close by. But knew very little about it because it'd been behind the Iron Curtain for so long.
yeah.
And, you know, I had a big crew and I started to do the diary. So, and the reason why I did it was that friends, family, and loved ones of my crew could, you know, stay in touch virtually
Yeah.
with their loved ones. On that was away on this big adventure in Estonia, and it was written in Swedish. And it was, you know, every day I took a couple of pictures and uploaded them on a web page, hosted. It was on the, I used to work for Spectra Event Technologies back then, which was a
Yeah.
lighting rental company. So it was posted on their web page. And High End was a partner that year. We had the Catalyst and we had the X Spots. I'm afraid we had,
Oops.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
yeah, aren't we all? And
Yeah.
every time I bring
The
this
biggest
story
light
up,
ever, but no output.
yeah, and every time I mention this in Austin, Richard goes like, "That was not my fucking feature."
Ah, it's funny because I had that conversation with Richard like last week where we were talking. I was trying to get Richard to admit that some of the things that he developed were shit. And it's so hard to get him to do. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really, really hard to get him to do.
But you know he has papers on that. When the expert was he was temporarily fired or
Yeah.
on leave from High End when during the expert area. So yeah. But it was after. So in the end of that production, uh, Bill Morris reached out to me, the former vice president
Yeah.
of High End. It's like, hey, we absolutely loved the blog you did or the diary because actually blog was not invented
Yeah. It wasn't really
back
a
then.
thing.
It wasn't a word. It's like, and I was like, what? Yeah, but do you think you can do it? If you ever do it again, can you do it in English? And I was like, you were reading that? It was like everyone at the office, first thing in the morning, they would go to the Spectra webpage to look. And I mean, we were just, because this was before Google Translate or anything, so they were just looking at the pictures and just see how it all progressed into what became a very beautiful show.
Yeah.
So from 2003 and onwards, it was done in English, and it always kept the same heart and soul. It was all about the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the people that is doing the show? Who are the key people? But also, who's the catering lady and whatnot? Because you have to fill content for like 6 or 7 weeks, so you can go into depth. But also over time, it got more and more diving deeper and deeper into technical specifics, because apparently internet is full of tech geeks that just loves to know how many screws a Gobo is fixed within a Mac 2000.
Wild, isn't it?
And other interesting facts. But it also became a really great promotional tool for our technical partners. That was 100% for free. They had logos up there. We went into depth of the technical innovations we were doing on that specific year. So and then the last one I did was in Tel Aviv 2019. And I knew that would be my last Eurovision, because, hey, I was going to Hollywood. I'm going to be executive producer of American Song Contest.
It's funny because I had you on the podcast in 2019. Little did we know what we were about to bump into.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Got silly.
And then well, that's temporarily on hold. We are super proud of the product that we gave NBC. We're maybe not so impressed with the way they handle that product, but I think that it was a really, really, really well produced TV show, and it was produced in a way that has never been done on American TV, and it was live.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun discussion with NBC. It was like, well, we have live voting, so how can the show not be live? Oh.
Yeah, I could see that.
But it was I loved everything about that product. We're very proud of it, and it's gonna come back.
Well, timing was miserable. I mean, the timing couldn't have been worse.
Couldn't be worse. And what really killed us was that at very late stage we had to postpone the premiere 4 weeks. So we ended up on the same opening weekend as Idol. And ABC was kind enough to move Idol from Sundays to Mondays to go in direct competition with us.
Yeah.
You can never win that. And that was 100% COVID, because and it was interesting because we knew we had New York as a test lab. Whatever happened in New York, we knew would hit LA 4 weeks later. So it was kind of looking into the future, and it was an executive decision made to give us a chance to have some audience in the studio.
Yeah.
Which is super important to the format.
Of course,
to have a live audience. So it was the right decision, but it was also the wrong decision. But lesson learned.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way that pandemics is not the best of times to launch anything new. It's like, stick to what you know.
No, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Unless you were launching some online gaming system or something, or a delivery service, or whatever. But
or just cashing in on my patent on my LED floor that I never patented.
Exactly. Which would have made you an instant 100-air.
I'm not bitter. But when I did it in 2019, I was like, and I said that, I think, on the starting page, welcome to the last edition of Eurovision Diary ever. Because it just took too much time out of my day. And especially that year, because up to that point, from 2007 to 2019, Joan was taking all the pictures. and
Yeah.
resizing them and publishing them. And then
Yeah.
I would write today's story around the pictures. But now I had to take the pictures as well because Joan wasn't there. So it was just like too big of
Yeah.
a burden. So when I came back and the SVT, the marketing department really wanted me to do a diary. And I was like, it's so 2002 to do a diary or a blog. So, but I'll do something on Instagram. So that's how it started,
Yeah.
and oh boy, that took off.
It's
It's like,
fantastic. No,
yeah,
it's fantastic. It's so,
crazy.
and it's so easy to do. Like the platforms make it so easy now between
Yeah,
YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or
yeah,
any of them. They make
and
it so easy.
I absolutely love that because a picture says more than 1,000 words anyway, and a video clip says even more. And
Yeah.
there was minimal effort to just, oh, this is fun. Oh, I bet people are interested in that. You shoot it, you do some stupid narration to it, and then you hashtag Eurovision or the manufacturer or whatever.
Well,
Post, done.
I'll tell you one of the cool things about this platform that we're recording on right now, Riverside. So you can do live stream, you can do all of those same things, but this one does the transcript. As soon as we're done recording, it'll give us a transcript and it'll give us all the timelines of main events that happened during our talk. Like it does all of that stuff automatically. So
Yeah.
immediately you have a full transcript of our discussion. And so
If you
you can,
manage to log in.
well, yeah, you made that a little difficult today.
Yeah, well, Swedes, Viking
It's
style.
Swedes. Yeah.
Swedes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing the amount of technology you use for this show, but try and come on a podcast. Click this button, select a microphone and video, and he kept shutting himself off. And I'm like, what the heck is going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah, it was like, and even after 20 minutes of support call, it was like there was no success. So I had
No
to download
success.
the app.
No
So
success.
any of you future victims for this kind of interviews, download the app. That's the real
Well,
deal.
I will tell you, you're the first person who hasn't been able to make it work on Chrome. So you have some
Well,
special settings in your computer.
Swedish special forces and security
Yeah.
police and all that has been
You're blocking
frequently.
you're blocking Canada, which is probably a good thing right now, because I'm sitting in
Well,
Canada.
that's
So
default.
you're
That's a default
blocking,
setting on all Swedish computers because
yeah,
of the
block Canadian
tragic
content.
history with ice hockey. Yeah,
I
this
get
is
it.
true.
I understand. Well, you're trying to steal our secrets, and it's just not that easy because you require skating talent and shooting skills and stuff like that,
Yeah,
So it's a
stuff
little
like
bit
that.
tougher. It's a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, I've taken enough of your time today, and I appreciate it so much. It's been fun catching up again.
Likewise, it's been lovely. But
Yeah.
there is one thing that you promised you would ask me.
Uh-oh.
And it was something I can't remember the exact wording, but a fun memory or some crazy thing that happened. And
Oh,
and I really I have something that I think is extremely hilarious, and
please share.
it's also a homage to the past because
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you know. Do you know the details of the brown M&M story
I do.
with Van
Yeah.
Halen?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
and it was put in there to make sure that the promoter read their
Was
rider.
reading the agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. So I every year we write guidelines, show guidelines for and send out to all the delegations. And it's basic info like the duration of the song, the age of the artist, the amount of performers on stage, deadline for music delivery, content delivery, content of the song, no political messages, all that yada yada. Also technical, deadlines for deliveries of stems and LED content and whatnot. And the very last paragraph mentions what is not allowed on stage. And on this year's show guidelines that was sent, I create them, I send them to EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, and they post them on their intranet where all the delegations download them. So the very last segment, it says, not possible for any delegations to use. augmented reality, green screen, water or any other liquids, sand, dust, or any form of powder, drones, live animals, confetti, or clowns.
I love that. Clowns.
And and it actually was only picked up by one delegation.
Really?
we were having a creative meeting with the UK who wanted to do something completely out of the
Oh,
box.
so you allow the UK into Europe?
Yeah, well, so Eurovision Song Contest have contestants from United Kingdom, Israel, Armenia,
Yeah.
Australia. It's a wide definition of
What were there any political like blockages this year, like Russia, obviously, or
yeah, Russia has been kicked out of the EU.
okay.
There was some fuss about Israel performing
Yeah. Yeah.
or being in the contest.
Hmm.
We never, inside the production bubble, we never saw it. Besides during the live performance, where there was some quite substantial booing, which
Yeah.
is also like, come on, it's a 20-year-old beautiful girl performing a beautiful song.
Yeah.
It was like, this is not what this show
Yeah, I
is
mean, it's
about.
different if she's wearing a T-shirt that says "fuck Palestine" or something,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
But she's
yeah.
not. Like, she's not there to
No,
make a political statement. She's there to sing a song.
exactly, and it was a great performance. I
Yeah.
loved it, absolutely loved it, and she was so talented, so beautiful, and it's just like, but that's the world we're living in today. It's full
Yeah.
of haters,
Yeah.
but it's also become like a fashion almost, to to uh, to take sides in
Yeah.
anything, yeah, because of social media.
The no
Um,
clowns thing is hilarious though. Like, were you doing it as a joke or were you doing it for the same reason Van Halen did
I did it
to
for the exactly same reason as Van
yeah.
Halen did it. And the only ones who, so we had this long creative meeting with the UK about, because it was a very complicated thing they wanted to do and completely out of the box and something that has never been done on the Eurovision stage before. And, and, and we're like, okay, well, yeah, but you have to, here's the size and the weight of each part of the prop, and keep this in mind, and blah blah blah. And we actually made an exception. The video panels that was used in their prop, they delivered by themselves because they had to be built into the prop.
Yeah, it was a
And
spec.
but they gave us the full, and it was, I actually think it was delivered by CT in the UK, so we
Yeah.
were okay with that. Um, but in the end of this very long meeting, it's like one of the creatives says, "Darling, Ola, I need to ask you something." It's like, I don't plan to bring any, but why aren't the clowns allowed on your
Yeah.
stage?
Why can't I have my clowns?
And I said, "Darling, you just won a bottle of champagne
That's
because you're the
hilarious.
first one that actually noticed that."
That is so funny.
Which means that you read the entire document. It's like a free page or kind of boring stuff, rules and protocols.
Yeah, la la
Um,
la la. I have a
yeah,
graph at
yeah,
the bottom
yeah,
and forget about it,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
So
That's
so
awesome.
then it turns out that, yeah, sad enough, she was actually the only one making that comment. So on
Yeah.
the first day on the first rehearsal for UK, there was a nice bottle of champagne served in front of the stage to that
That's
producer. It's
awesome.
like, you won, you're awesome.
So I know I said I was done, but when do you start next year? Next Eurovision?
um, well, who says I'm doing next year?
I don't know,
You
but let's
never
assume you're
you
doing
never
next
know.
year. When would you
Um,
start?
2 weeks ago, but since I'm not appointed yet, I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
I just got involved with something extremely exciting. It's going to
Oh,
be, yeah, it's going to be, yeah, wow. It's going to make Eurovision look like a small club gig. Um,
damn.
yeah, it's
Damn.
it's
I assume
it's
you can't say much more.
no,
Yeah.
No. In a couple of weeks, I can tell you more, and you will
Yeah.
go, holy shit.
Wow. I
That's
can't wait
going to
to
be
hear about
bigger
it.
than the biggest ever.
Yeah.
So there's reasons to now. When I have the app, it's easy for us to connect.
Yeah. We're going to have to talk about it again.
Yeah. No, so
Yeah.
I'm super busy with that, with a great
Cool.
team of people. It was something that just dropped in our lap a week ago,
Yeah. Wow.
a week and a half ago.
Super cool.
So, and it's going to happen later this year. So it's
Nice. Well, I look
turbo
forward to
mode.
hearing about it, but quit talking about
Yeah.
it now because now you're pissing me off because you won't tell me.
Right,
But
I can give you my recipe of a good rub for brisket if you want.
tell
Yeah,
me,
come
yeah,
through.
like I guess you've learned a lot about barbecue since you got to Austin, right?
I did,
Yeah.
and
So do you have your own
I
smoker and all that stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a pellet smoker guy. I
Yeah.
don't have time to get up at 3 a.m. and set fire to some wood and then sit there and watch it among spiders and snakes and crap all day. It's
Yeah.
like, so I use Green Mountain Grill pellet smoker. I get $5 every time I say that, and it's awesome. And it's all and I control it from my phone. And it's not even at our place. It's at my mother-in-law's place down in Lakeway.
Wow.
So yeah, it's officially a Christmas gift to her. Uh, she has never used it. She doesn't know how. She doesn't even know how to start it. There was,
Yeah.
but it was a good excuse to get one.
See, for me, barbecuing is I've got a nice, stainless steel or whatever, aluminum. I don't know what it is, but it's a gas barbecue that I throw a steak
Yeah,
on there. I cook it, and you know,
that works.
I'm sure you know Brian Dowd.
Oh yeah, of course.
So he just did the four wall thing again in New Jersey,
Yeah, I
I think
saw
last
that.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, that guy, he cooks so much food.
So
It's
much.
just an enormous amount of food that he cooks over a
Yeah,
couple of days for that thing.
yeah.
So,
We always do a crew barbecue in Eurovision. That was a tradition that started already in 2002.
oh,
And the
wow.
problem is there's always two major problems. One, to find the time to do it, and two,
One,
to
aren't
get
all
permits.
Europeans vegans?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no, no,
I'm
no,
just
no, no,
joking.
no, no, no. They're all in Austin.
That's funny. Or
but
Los Angeles.
the second big challenge is to get the fire marshal to sign off on open
Of
flame
course,
somewhere
yeah.
anywhere within the security compound. So
Uh,
this year we had like a winter garden outside. We were using the old conference floor at the hotel as our production office area, and they had like two lovely outdoor winter gardens. And we got a sponsorship from Traeger, so we got their biggest smoker, and then so day one we rolled the Traeger into the winter garden, and the
yeah,
hostess of the conference was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, we're not sure yet, but I'm going to figure this out. And
that
then
is awesome.
we had the venue or the arena restaurant doing our catering, and it was such a train crash in 2013. So they asked me for a meeting already in January. It's like, how can we make this successful? So I said, it's so simple, Taco Friday. Everyone loves tacos. Can we do some other fun buffet on Saturdays? And they said, what about barbecue buffet? It was like, yeah, let's do that. And then we had a
Nice.
hamburger buffet on Sundays, and mixing it up with a little Asian food, Italian food, because that's really what it's all about. Good catering comes with great variation,
Oh, yeah.
especially on a 7 week haul.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like you
Absolutely.
need to mix things up.
Yeah.
Um, and then when we're on site, I was like, I think it was Wednesday, and I was in catering, and I was like, and the chefs were up there. I was like, hey, so tell me a bit more about this barbecue buffet you're planning to do on Saturday. What is it going to be? I was like, well, we're doing flank or we're doing some sausages and stuff, and then we're thinking about one more thing. I was like, well, why don't you order like you know, 80, 90 pounds of pork, and we'll take care of that. I was like, what do you mean? Oh, come with me. So I took them down in the winter garden, and I showed us like, ta-da, the Rolls Royce of
Nice.
pellet grills. And it was like,
Wow.
what is this? It's like, that's our production smoker.
Wow.
Can we do one of the dishes every Saturday? It's like, hell yeah. And since we ordered the meat from them, there was all the paper trails needed.
Wow.
Um, and then everything was prepped in their kitchen. So we just send them a list of this is what we need for this
I
rub
bet it was
or this
spectacular,
marinade.
huh?
It was amazing. So every Saturday or every Friday or and actually Wednesday or Thursday we were prepping the meat, doing the rub, letting it sit in their walk-in refrigerator for 24 to 48 hours, putting it on the smoker on Friday, so it will be ready by 6 p.m. on Saturdays.
Jesus. You're making me hungry, man.
it
You're making
was
me hungry.
it was the best stunt ever. It was
Yeah.
like finally we could do crew barbecue. We could do it every Saturday, and it was actually part of the catering,
Yeah.
and it was served up in the catering. So they just did all the sides, and they would do the slaw and corn and whatnot, and it was awesome.
Oh, we lost your sound here. Oh, all right, Ola. Thank you. Be well, my friend. All right.